Good, we're good.
Okay.
Don't know what it was, but
It's too bad there's not like a way to save the settings, so then every time you come back in.
yeah, it's,
All right. Good evening. This is the Halliwell Review Committee, Thursday, July 1st, 2021. Time is 6:40, so we'll start with roll call. Mr. Garten.
Here.
Mr. Halliwell.
Here.
Mr. Mayo.
Here.
Mr. Simpkins.
Here.
Mr. Savini.
Here.
And the chairman is here. Mr. Corvo will be joining us a little later, but Mr. Nigerian will be absent from tonight. Second item on the agenda is review and approval of draft meeting minutes from June 17th, 2021. Give everybody a minute to take a look at those. And then if anybody has any comments.
Probably just a correction on item number 5. I believe it should be July 15th instead of June 15th.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, I would make a motion to approve the minutes with that amendment to it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Halliwell. Me. All in favor?
Aye.
And we have our meeting minutes. All right. Next on the agenda is for discussion, review, and action, the member resignation. I just wanted to publicly put forth to everyone that Bobby Bradford did submit a letter of resignation to myself and town council. I want to take a moment to thank him for his time and effort put towards this committee, and as we're sad to see him go. And all really I wanted to do was just make a motion to accept his resignation, and then we can move forward from that.
Second.
All right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then, just for everyone's knowledge, I know that leaves us without a secretary for the time being. What I'd like to do is make sure that we have our full committee formed once again before we start making any nominations for that. Between Chris and I, will take care of the meeting minutes for the time being, though. So if it takes me a second to write things down, I'm sorry. All right, next item is for discussion, review, and action, the review of existing furnishings and equipment at the site. What I'm looking to do tonight is discuss it a little bit, make a recommendation to town council of what we could potentially do with all of the things that have been, the loose items that have been left behind. So I know Chris shared the images that he took from our walkthrough, and what I was thinking was that to kind of facilitate clearing out the space, that we give the town departments an opportunity to go through and see if there's anything that they'd like to retrieve from the buildings. But then at that point, I was thinking that similar to what DPW does with their unused equipment, that we could put either buildings or classrooms out to bid, and whoever was the high bidder on it could come and take the equipment, and then that alleviates us from really the time and effort to clean out each individual classroom. So it's like if it's not bolted down, you can bid on it and come and take it, and then that way somebody can find a use for it. And like I said, if the town departments want to go through it prior to and put sticky notes on it or something to claim something, they can have the opportunity to do that. But I think that might be the most efficient way to start to clear out the buildings.
The only thing I'd say is the library has a lot of nice shelving. And if we do put a food pantry into Halliwell, it would be good to save that shelving for the food pantry. Because that way they wouldn't have to, you know, it's better shelving than what the food pantry presently has.
So maybe to more generally, what, you know, we're talking about like the town departments going through and identifying anything that they want to keep. Maybe we should go through as well and identify anything that might be useful for future use of the site, right? So things like shelving for a food pantry or anything. I know there were air conditioners. I don't know if other town departments can make immediate use of those, but you know there might be things that we think could potentially be used.
Chris, did you want to share that screen?
I think that's a tremendous idea to have the town and the school department initially go through the property. And I did notice, in fact, going back to the walkthrough we had last March, so over a year ago, there were a number of items, probably of sentimental, historical value that I really think that we should suggest, if not implore, the school department to, you know, have a first crack at what really probably has some value to people, sentimental value. So I would hope, and I have no problem personally reaching out to a few people I know in the school department, asking them to get that moving forward. I think been there long enough, and really we owe it to a lot of the homemade items, you know, it's things that people put a lot of time into that they find a way to use them somewhere else if possible. And then, you know, certainly based upon that walkthrough, there are, I would think, some items of value that the town could use. And if not, there are many ways of looking at bidding out, cleaning it out, however we can mitigate the costs of removal is a huge plus.
Any other comments? Thoughts? So then, really, I'd like to kind of put this over to the town council to start facilitating the process, getting that going underway. So I know it's our task to provide our recommendations to town council, so I think we should make a motion and get that ball rolling. So is there anybody that would like to make the motion as specific language, or we can make a generic motion and relay what we just discussed to the town council, and they can have a discussion and start to move it forward.
So just to clarify, we would be writing out an official, you know, letter of recommendation to the council, and the motion would be to put that together, not the specific language around what we would want. So basically the motion is that you, for instance, might put that together and forward it on, not, you know, wait for approval at the next meeting to, you know, review the language, as long as it's in the spirit of what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, and I would even say it's just I go to, myself and Steve, during the Halliwell update, we'd have that discussion, and I'd relay the thoughts and the concerns that everyone had here tonight to the town council, so then that way that they can start moving things forward. If that works with everybody.
Can I just make a suggestion? The next council meeting isn't until July 19th, so you do have another meeting before that if you want to review it.
So, however everybody else is comfortable, I'm comfortable with. So if it's verbal recommendation, fine. If it's paper recommendation, we're still figuring that out for this committee, how moving forward. So, Tom, what's your professional opinion? Should we do a letter of recommendation, or should we do a verbal recommendation?
To the council, you could could do either. I mean, you know, in Barville, they have a process whereby they declare all town property surplus when they don't want it anymore, and they will either send it to recycling or bid it. So you want to do, but like Carl just said, you gotta. It's not till the 19th is their next meeting.
Because I know they
Yeah,
tend
yeah.
to,
I mean,
they get their packets on the Wednesday, so. Right. I think that's right. So, in essence, they would, even though we would have our meeting before their meeting, they get their package before our meeting, so.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You just want to. I think the approach is fine. The approach is fine.
Why don't we do this? In the spirit of what everybody has said, I've got our notes, we'll have our recording. I'll jot up a memo to just be part of the record for the town council. And I'll make that motion, and if I can get a second. Second. Multiple seconds, great. Then we can move forward. Oh, all in favor?
I,
Thank you. Yes, I will place that.
We do have a sequence of like how he gets first dibs, right?
Mhm.
School committee.
Yeah. Okay, for discussion, draft of the final survey results, yesterday was the last day. Chris, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. How many survey responses have we received online?
377 as of now. I know that you've also received some paper responses.
Yes.
I don't know quite how many though.
So, these are the paper responses that we've received from Linda Tebow, so I thank her for her efforts in getting all those responses. What I would also like to do is see if there's any volunteers that would like to take a handful of these and start plugging them into the survey, to the Google survey. It could be just a simple copy and paste because a lot say the same thing. So we can decide. I can hand these out after our meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So just to clarify, the intention is to close at the end of June, and then I'll look at all the responses, I'll compile a presentation for our next meeting.
Yep.
Should we make an official motion to close the initial survey at this point, you know, pending the additional paper responses?
Yeah, well, I put for discussion, so we don't have any definitive action item that we need to do on that tonight. But I mean, we have been saying to everyone that we are closing it on June 30th, so I don't think we need to make any further motion. What I can do is I can also share we can officially close the survey, but I can share it with the committee members so that you're able to put in all the paper survey, so we have all that information. And then, so unless we have any other further discussion about the survey results, Chris, right offhand, what percentage wants to keep and what percentage wants to sell? I know that's the easiest one to pull out.
I don't have a breakdown, but the vast majority wants to keep it and do something with it.
Cool. Great. All right. Then for our next topic is for discussion, consideration, and action, progress of outreach by committee members. So just checking in with everybody how their outreach is going. I know a few committees haven't met quite yet since our last meeting where we wanted to get an update. So if it's in progress, it's in progress. But if anyone's had any good conversations with the assignments that we put out, we'd like to hear about it. Mr. Mann.
I had an interesting conversation with Tony's wife, who's on the juvenile hearing board, and I talked about what was going on, and I suggested, because I know that the juvenile hearing board, what they do is, young people who do not have felony problems, but misdemeanor problems, they assign them work projects here in town, and I suggested to her that there's now a community garden there, and that might be a good possibility to have people, if they had to find work assignments, to do that. And I also suggested that once, 2 or 3 years from now, when things are going there, and we've got perhaps a food pantry there, the senior center there, other things, that'll be a good opportunity for them to have, for the young people who have problems and need to do community service, to be an asset. And she thought that was good, and she was going to pass it on to her board.
Anybody else with updates? Okay. I think we'll probably start to hear a little bit more after everyone has their July meetings. And I know the Budget Committee has been focused on other things the past couple of weeks. So.
Well, I can speak to that. I have not heard back from them. I spoke to Cheryl Mandola, and I have not heard back from them, but they just finished a very busy period, so hopefully, and vacation time, everything else going on, hopefully, soon we hear back.
Perfect, great. This is going to be a quick meeting tonight. I think it's going to be a record. Item number 7 for discussion, decommissioning funds. I watched the YouTube video of the last meeting, and I know Mr. Nigerian brought up the fact that people were asking him about how are we going to get money, where's the money coming from, this, that, and the other thing. So I did want to just let everybody know for their knowledge that I spoke with Cynthia, our finance director. We do have $400,000 that's part of the decommissioning efforts. So there is that money that's earmarked for this process that we're going through. It might cover some of it. It might, the allocations of that have not been definitive of where it's going, but I'm going to assume the Weston and Sampson contract is going to be covered under that $400,000 because we are utilizing them to help us with a decommissioning process. But then the rest of the funds remain somewhat untouched at this point in time.
Do you know where that money comes from, Jeff? Is that allocated in the budget?
I believe when the school bond was voted upon, the school committee had set aside a certain amount to decommission Halliwell. And when the transfer of Halliwell property went from the school department to the town, that money went with it.
So it was part of the bond?
Yeah.
Okay. It's still there? It's left over in the, from the bond?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
let me pull up the email from Cynthia. I'll just read it right off. As soon as I pull it up. Hold on a minute. Got it somewhere. Here we go. So, she says in her email that there is $400,000 set aside for the decommissioning of Halliwell. And that's the gist of it. I have a few other questions for her too, but that wasn't in relation to Halliwell.
Question, if we use that $400,000 to pay Weston and Sampson, there's nothing left, right, is there?
Weston and Sampson's contract was only $84,000.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I believe from conversations I heard a while back that there was an agreement made between the school department and the town.
Yep.
In the course of the town taking over the property, and I imagine that's where that $400,000 comes in. I'm wondering if, and I don't know if it's even still relevant, but if there was any, I know there was talk a while back, maybe years ago, around potentially mothballing, if you will, and putting a fence around to kind of secure the space until, it was decided where it was going to go. And I'm wondering if there was any budget put together around any kind of decommissioning, and maybe we could access that information. I know the previous town administrator had spoken to that. Mr. Lombardi, the school committee chair, may also have some idea of where that's at. If there was, I believe there was something done.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Oops.
Tom, are you saying something?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea we can utilize those funds to perhaps match Champlain Foundation and maybe even the Rhode Island Foundation. If we can set up this decommissioning in a manner that's, commensurate with repurposing the buildings. So you're kind of going forward as well. That's right in Champlain's wheelhouse, so to speak. So that's something I'd like you to let me pursue. I can talk to Champlain about that.
Sure.
Tom will probably speak better to this, but I would assume part of grant applications are generally, especially with matching funds, I'm sure the municipality has to show that they have the funds available before, so I guess knowing we have that now puts us in a somewhat good position. I would also assume because we are advisory in nature, anytime we want to spend any kind of money, we would then need to seek the approval of the town council and put a motion forward, I assume.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. That would be part of our whole recommendation process, just as any other board would do. Okay. Well, we're done before the sun sets, so. Unless anybody has anything that they want to go back to or touch upon?
One question.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the site in a couple of weeks. Does anybody know how the garden's going? Has anybody heard or seen?
I do not. I haven't heard from Ann at this point, but I would think they're full steam ahead.
Great.
I know they were planting when we did our walkthrough, so I would and I think they're starting to do Ann was speaking that they were gonna start doing their first harvest in the next couple of weeks, so it'll be exciting to see what's coming to that.
Very impressive what they have going over there. They really put together a tremendous garden in a short period of time. So it's a testament to hard work of volunteers.
All right, and if nobody has anything else, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Mayo, second from Mr. Halliwell, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.